colleague from the Silver State, Representative Stephen Horsford. Every Monday when Congress is in session, we have an opportunity to speak directly to the American people for 60 minutes, the so-called CBC Hour of Power, where we get a chance to discuss an issue of relevance in this great country. Today, the members of the Congressional Black Caucus are here to talk about halting the GOP march toward impeachment. We're going to address the troubling fact that the GOP appears to want to move forward this week with a lawsuit challenging the president's authority. Now, I think most legal scholars will come to the conclusion the House GOP lawsuit is baseless, it's frivolous, it is without merit. But the American people should pay attention to what is going to take place this week, because the lawsuit is part of a continuing effort to delegitimize the President of the United States of America. Now, I recognize, unfortunately, that there are some folks in this chamber who believe that the President exceeded his authority on January 20th, 2009, when he took the oath of office. And they have continued to accuse him of presidential lawlessness ever since. Now, during this special order hour, we are going to discuss the alleged lawlessness that has taken place, and I think we'll be able to dismiss these allegations as nothing more than political broadsides leveled against a president who was elected by the people of this great country and reelected by the people of this great country. And then we're also going to deal with the fact that there's so many other things that we as a Congress could be doing other than wasting taxpayer money related to a lawsuit that is sure to be thrown out of court. It's going to be thrown out because there is no congressional standing to sue the president. The Supreme Court has said this over and over again. There must be a particularized injury in order for one to get standing in federal court, and members of Congress lack it. That's what the Supreme Court has concluded. There's also the issue of the political question doctrine. Disputes between the two branches of government, the executive branch and the congressional legislative branch, are not to be resolved by the Article III courts. They are to be resolved by the normal governmental processes put in place by our Constitution. We're joined today by the distinguished chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, a tremendous leader of our CBC over the 113th Congress. It's now my honor to yield to the distinguished gentlelady from Ohio, Congresswoman Marsha Fudge.
Thank you very, very much for yielding. And I again want to thank my colleagues, Congressman Jeffries and Horsford, for again leading the Congressional Black Caucus Special Order Hour on an issue that should never have made it to this House floor. We shouldn't even have to consider halting the Republicans' leadership's irreverent and irresponsible march toward impeachment of the President of the United States. Mr. Speaker, since his election, Republican leadership has shown nothing short of outright disrespect and disdain for the current President of the United States. In an effort to prevent the President from getting anything done during his first term or his second, the Republican leadership has completely ignored the process. They prefer obstruction and destruction of our federal government over working towards what's best for the American people. Now, Speaker Boehner and the Republicans are posed to waste millions of taxpayers' dollars on a lawsuit arguing against something they asked him to do. They're claiming to take issue with the President because he instructed the delay of the Affordable Care Act's employer mandate. If I remember correctly, Mr. Speaker, House Republicans wanted to do away with that provision, not to mention the entire ACA. The president delayed the employer mandate from taking effect for 1 year in an effort to hear and act on Republicans' more reasonable concerns. And now they're trying to punish him for it. This makes absolutely no sense. Instead of focusing on the many issues facing our nation, Republican leadership is choosing to pull another political stunt that wastes our time and our tax dollars. Through consistent obstruction, dysfunction, and a steadfast unwillingness to serve the American people, Republican leadership continues to abuse their power while they demean and disgrace this House. When will they recognize that by attempting to damage the president's leadership and his legacy, they are only hurting the people that we are all sworn to serve? When will they wake up and realize that this job is not about political gamesmanship? It's about doing the work we are asked to do by our constituents. And that work is to propose and pass legislation that creates opportunity for the American people, not to distract them with the silliness that Republicans have stirred up since day one of this administration. Their inaction and petty behavior has caused this to be the least productive Congress in the history of this nation. The president should sue the Congress for not doing their job. Mr. Speaker, the American people deserve so much more than the Republican leadership has given them. It is time to stop these ridiculous games and get to work on the real and serious business of this House. I yield back.
Thank the distinguished Chair Lady of the CBC. The people of America deserve a Congress that does the business of the people, that deals with real issues to impact working families, the middle class, senior citizens, the poor, the sick, and the afflicted. Instead, we get an agenda from the majority in the House of Representatives that is all about delay, destruction, and delegitimization of the President of the United States of America. This is a frivolous lawsuit, lacks any basis in law or in fact, and we need to get beyond the political gamesmanship and get back to doing the business of the people. I'm pleased that we've been joined by a distinguished member of the Budget Committee that I'm honored to serve with, a champion for working families and the poor and the middle class, the distinguished gentle lady from the Badger State, Representative Gwen Moore.
Thank you so much, Representative Jeffries. And I was wondering if I could ask you to yield to some questions. You certainly are an officer of the court. You're an attorney. And so I wanted to ask you to expand a little bit on your contention that constitutional experts and legal scholars have commented that the lawsuit will fail for the lack of standing, that there is no injury here that anyone could point to, and to explain that to me a little bit more.
Well, I thank the gentle lady for yielding back. Justice Scalia, in an opinion in 1997, Raines v. Byrd, Chief Justice Rehnquist, made the point that individual members of Congress do not have standing to bring lawsuits in court if they cannot point to a particularized or personal injury, which the GOP in this case will not be able to do, because the injury that's being claimed relates to policy disputes, such as the ACA and the employer mandate, such as DACA, and such as the welfare work requirements. These are broad policy disputes, not particularized injuries. And the court went on to point out that if one of the members of Congress were to retire tomorrow, he would no longer have a general claim. The claim would be possessed by his successor instead. The claimed injury, referring to policy disputes, attaches to the member's seat, a seat which the member holds as trustee for his constituents, not as a prerogative of personal power. In other words, there is no standing for members of Congress to bring a lawsuit against the president in the context of a policy dispute.
Well, thank you so much for that clarification, Mr. Jeffrey. So this doesn't